Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that made a decent amount of moves this summer. They definitely invested a lot into the team this year, and the fans were expecting a potential playoff team this year. Well, things have not really started off so well for the Blackhawks. We'll be taking a look at that in today's video. So let's just get right into it. So the Chicago Blackhawks, not the start that I think Jeremy Colliton and Stan Bowman were hoping for the Blackhawks going into this season. They didn't have a great start. They played the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado, and things got ugly early. And they were able to diffuse that potential blowout game after the first period. It was 3-0, 10 minutes into the game. And it looked like they were going to get just thumped in the season opener. They ended up losing that game 4-2, which it still wasn't a great look. And that was Marc-Andre Fleury's first start with the Chicago Blackhawks. So not a great start for them in that regard. Then they would head to New Jersey, a team that's a little bit younger, less experienced, and definitely not the skill per se as the Colorado Avalanche. They go into Jersey. Kevin Lankinen gets the start. And they lose that one, 4-3 in overtime. And Jack Hughes ends up getting the game winner in that one. So now they're 0-1-1 to start the season. So they're already behind the 8 ball. Now they head to Pittsburgh, a team that has actually looked really solid so far. And not to mention, Marc-Andre Fleury makes his return back to Pittsburgh, where he was the first overall pick, I believe, 2003, 2004, the first overall pick of the Penguins. Things didn't go so well for his homecoming this season. I think he gave up 4 goals in the first period, and he got yanked. And it was not a pretty game for Marc-Andre Fleury. Once again, they lose that one 5-2. So now they're 0-2-1 to start their season. And then they have their home opener in game number 4 of the season, where they take on the boa constrictor that is the New York Islanders. And the Islanders were kind of up against, backed into a corner themselves, because they had not won a game going into this contest as well. So these were two teams that were kind of, you don't want to say a make or break game, especially in game 3 and 4 of their seasons respectively. But you knew there was going to be a different tone to this game. And for the most part, it was a pretty good game, but the tone was set early before the puck was even dropped. They were announcing the players coming onto the ice and the coaching staff, and when they were calling Jeremy Colliton's name and Stan Bowman's, there was a couple murmurs and boos for Jeremy Colliton, which I thought was very interesting. And it seems like they're already kind of turning on this coaching staff in Chicago. And that was when they were 0-2-1. Well, things got worse. The Islanders played the Islander way. They get up 1-0. They kind of tire you out, frustrate you. Eric Gustafsson, who just had a PTO with the Islanders and got let go, he comes back to the Blackhawks. He wasn't having a great game. He's smashing his stick on the boards, because that's what the Islanders do. They frustrate you. And it's a 2-0 lead. And it's a 3-0 lead. Then it's a 4-0 lead. Marc-Andre Fleury looked absolutely ticked off in that one. Yeah, okay, they score some BS goal in the final minute. Congrats to Mackenzie Entwistle. He gets a goal, big power forward, so it's 4-1. But Ilya Sorokin stood on his head. And it's one of those things where you could just say, well, the goalie stole that one for the Islanders. The Islanders go away quietly, give a little tap on the head to the white whale, and call it a day. But for the Blackhawks, that wasn't a good enough excuse or a good enough answer, because they had already lost games. They're 0-3-1 right now. 3 of those starts in Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury got pulled in that game in Pittsburgh as well. And even in that game where Kevin Lankinen was in, the Devils, it seemed like, were shooting at his glove for a while. And then they started shooting away from his glove, and all of a sudden they were like, oh, we could score goals. Just keep it away from his glove side. And that ended up being the difference in that game. So this is going to be very interesting. How do the Blackhawks come back from this? Because I think what we saw is a team that didn't start the season well in that Colorado game, and it sort of set the tempo for the rest of their season, because even that Devils game, they didn't play terrible, but it was the Devils home opener, and a couple bounces didn't go their way. They lose that one, and then it just got worse from there. Then they play a hot Pittsburgh team. Then they play a legitimate Islanders team. Despite what their record was going into that game, we knew the Islanders were a legit team. So now you find yourself playing Vancouver, Detroit, and Toronto to finish out their homestand. And I don't really know if they're going to win those games because, Vancouver just had a little bit of their own they just had a little bit of a rough experience in their East Coast trip, losing a couple games recently. They just got beat by Buffalo. If that's not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. So they may be a little bit more up against the wall tonight playing the Blackhawks. Detroit, they had kind of a weird game with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They found a way to beat the Blue Jackets, who were 2-0 coming into Detroit. So Detroit actually looks pretty good. Tyler Bertuzzi has already got 5 or 6 goals on the season. And then you play Toronto, which we know the Leafs are not going to be an easy team to play against. So it's going to be one of those things where if the Blackhawks don't come out of the rest of this homestand, right? They have 3 games here in the rest of this homestand. If they don't win 2 of these games, there is going to be some genuine concern because now you have a 2-game road trip that starts next weekend. So for this next week, they're home at the United Center. Starting next Friday night and Saturday night, they have a back-to-back in Carolina, and then they have to head out to St. Louis. Those 2 teams look pretty legit and are much more terrifying than Vancouver and Detroit and New Jersey on your schedule. So I don't know, guys. If there's going to be a coach, and I hate making calls like this, could we see a head coach? Who's the first head coach to get fired? Right now, the seat is definitely warm right now for Jeremy Colliton in Chicago. Now, Stan Bowman has stood by Jeremy Colliton the entire time and everything and this and that. And guys, you got to remember too, where were the Blackhawks last season? Going into the year, they had the worst goalie tandem. What was it? Colin Delia, Kevin Lankinen, and Malcolm Subban, which we were talking about as their goalie situation. It wasn't even a duo. It was 3 goalies throughout the season. And they've obviously made an upgrade in Fleury. He hasn't gotten it together this season. And maybe that's all it is just Marc-Andre Fleury isn't giving the Blackhawks a chance. So is that Jeremy Colliton's fault, or is that maybe just the goaltender not being great to start the year? It could be a combination of both. And the problem is last season there were excuses, right? Kirby Dach got hurt in the World Juniors before the start of the 2021 season. Jonathan Toews, we knew he wasn't going to play that season. He had some issues after the COVID virus. He had some lingering issues. He couldn't get recovery and stuff like that. He had some serious illnesses. So he was out for the season. Then we saw Patrick Kane kind of missing some lineup time. And so we saw some different guys in the lineup, and there wasn't that high of expectations. Then you bring in the Jones brothers this summer. You bring in Marc-Andre Fleury, who won the Vezina. And the dynamic completely changes. But did they change enough where this is a legitimate playoff team? And I think we're still seeing some of the growing pains for the Vancouver Canucks, for the Chicago Blackhawks. And it doesn't help that they're playing in a pretty difficult Central Division. Really, I think other than Dallas and Nashville, I think the other teams are better than, and Arizona. So maybe Arizona and Nashville. Other than that, you have Dallas and St. Louis, who I'm not sold one way or the other on. Could they make the playoffs? Potentially. Maybe they're the team that gets in over Chicago. And then obviously you have teams like the Colorado Avalanche, who are at the top of the heap in that division. And I just don't know if Chicago has the goaltending right now. With Marc-Andre Fleury, it just hasn't worked. And maybe this is the last season for Marc-Andre Fleury. I hope he turns it around. We've seen crazier things happen before. The people that are, treating this like football, where it's a week-by-week basis, and that 1 week you play bad ends up being what costs you over the season, it doesn't necessarily work that way. There's an 82-game schedule again. It's not even the 51 game schedule. Even in a 51 game schedule, I could say, all right, there's still some hope. There's definitely some hope for the Chicago Blackhawks. But the problem is, it's when you have that mindset and it starts getting around the locker room and it lingers, and now this Jeremy Colliton thing is kind of an outside noise distraction. That's when you start having issues as the season goes along. Right now, looking at the roster, there are no injuries for the Blackhawks. So it's not like last year where you had your top two centers out to start the season. Like, there's no real excuses here. I mean, you're looking at the top point producers. Patrick Kane has 4 points. Kirby Dach has 3. Tyler Johnson actually is playing great. He's got 2 points on the season. Seth Jones has 2 points. So, like, there is some positives there. But at the end of the day, they're just giving up too many goals, some undisciplined penalties, and that ends up being the difference at the end of the day. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Chicago Blackhawks? Were the expectations set too high for the Blackhawks this season? Or are they underperforming? Let me know what you guys think down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.